Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Shweta, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all on the behalf of iFOREST for the launch webinar of our report, Reducing Emissions from Unmitigated Fuel Usage, Data-Driven Strategies for Air Quality and Climate Action in Indo-Gangetic Plains. Uh, First of all, I would like to welcome our panel members, Dr. Neeraj Rastogi, Professor, Physical Research Laboratory, Ahmedabad, Dr. Kirpa Ram, Associate Professor, Banaras Hindu University, Dr. Trilok Saud, Senior Research Establishment Officer, IIT Kanpur, and Dr. Arindam Roy, Climate Science Advisor, Clean Air Fund. Thank you for joining us today. The Indo-Gangetic Plain is one of the most polluted airsheds, and a significant share of its pollution comes from the sources that barely figure in our clean air action plans. So today, our study puts that hidden problem on a map. And let's start this convention with the hope that it is going to start much needed conversation on our clean air action frameworks. So for this, firstly, may I please now invite Dr. Pratima Singh, Director Air Pollution, iFOREST, to address the gathering and set the context for today's discussion. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you so much. First of all, a warm welcome to all the panel, all the participants, the audience that have joined from different places to be part of this discussion on the new study that iFOREST has done. I want to highlight that we have been working in the air pollution domain. Yeah, India has been struggling with poor air pollution levels since decades, and there are a lot of initiatives that has been taken within the country. A lot of schemes, policies, regulations have been implemented. But what is important today is that how much have we achieved out of it? Have Are we able to live in a better environment, a cleaner environment? Is that the question that we need to be asking ourselves? And from these brainstorming questions, we came to the point that even if we have emission inventories at city level under the National Clean Air Program, what is the percentage of pollution is still not controlled or it's unregulated? And from all this brainstorming, we came up with the question of how much fuel is still unmitigated or uncontrolled. When we develop emission inventories, we focus on various sectors that are within the city boundary, and then most of the industries, the big industries, they are regulated. There are a lot of pollution devices that are working, or the sectors where a lot of penetration of cleaner fuel is happening. But when we go beyond the city boundaries, when we look at the district level with the regional aspect, we still find that there are many informal sectors, many other activities that are happening where fuel is used, dirty fuel is used, no air pollution control devices are being used, and that's all uncontrolled, unmitigated. And how do we solve this problem? So today, we are going to release the launch this report where we will try to understand what is the share of unmitigated fuel that is being used in different sectors, in different activities, in two districts, Ludhiana and Varanasi, in the IGP belt. And does this help us to understand our clean air strategies in a better way? Do we improve on our frameworks where air pollution management and mitigation can be improved going forward? Or what should be a good way going forward in order to solve this informal sector, small units that are using dirty fuel? How do we improve on this structure? So we are all gathered here to also identify what are the visible, non-visible, regulated, non-regulated sources of pollution around us in our geographies, in our regions. And hence, iForest has taken up this study to answer these questions. And today we will deliberate with our experts here and also understand what should be the framework that India should be adopting going forward based on these two district level. With this, I welcome everyone again. And now I will request my colleague Udaya Kumar to present the study findings in a crisp manner for all our audience and the experts to understand. Over to you, Udaya.
Yeah, thank you, Pratima. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, I'll present key findings from our study, reducing emissions from unmitigated fuel usage. So before discussing results, it's important to understand what are unmitigated sources. As Pratima mentioned, we have defined any fuel use without presence of any air pollution control devices. We have classified them under unmitigated fuel sources. So, for example, mitigated sources are are emissions like industrial emissions, which have some air pollution control devices that captures the emissions from the fuel that's being burnt, and the transportation vehicles, which have some kind of norms or some which follow some norms or which have some emission control technologies in them installed in them. In unmitigated sources, we have a list of various list of sectors like unregistered industries or informal industries which are not part of OCMMS portal, domestic and residential cooking and heating, fuel usage, crop residue or stubble burning, and diesel generator sets. So coming to the project scope, objectives, and approach, we had the study had three objectives. One is to quantify unmitigated fuel use across sectors. The second one is to project the emissions from 2025 up to 2035. Third is to identify cost-effective control options so that we can visualize how much emission reduction is possible across both the districts. So for the study area, we have considered two districts. One is Ludhiana, one is Varanasi. Uh, just to have a representation from in the IGP area, one Ludhiana is majorly a industrial unit, whereas Varanasi is highly tourism or commercial based district. So we have covered sectors like industry, domestic commercial, transportation, diesel generator sets, and agricultural emissions. The study approach, so we have collected data from primary and secondary data, and then we have estimated emissions based on the activities and the emission factors, and then we have projected the BA using the sectoral growth rates. So parallelly, we also identify list of control measures for each of these sectors, and then prioritized using techno-economic assessment, and then we group these interventions to create scenarios, and then we came up with two different scenarios: ambitious scenario and the targeted reduction scenario, which I'll discuss in the upcoming slides. For the data collection process, for the primary survey, we did a extensive survey in three sectors, mainly domestic, commercial, and industries. So we covered around 1,600 samples in domestic, and commercial, we had around 600 samples, and industries 100 in Ludhiana and in Varanasi. Secondary data, we primarily relied on government data sets like Vahan, Udyam portal, and OCMMS industrial registration portal. So the two maps shows the points where we have conducted domestic household surveys in both Ludhiana district and the Varanasi district. So we try to cover all various households with various income levels. Before we discuss the emissions, just a brief background about both the districts. Both the districts had similar population, but Varanasi is highly densely populated, whereas Ludhiana is not that densely populated. But Ludhiana, there were more percentage of people living in urban areas compared to Varanasi. And Ludhiana is a highly industrial area. There were multiple clusters, and it also had a large amount of agriculture area. And Varanasi is mainly tourism-based economy. Around 75 million tourists visit Varanasi annually. Now, coming to the emissions part. So this slide highlights the uh, three key sectors: industries, agriculture, and transport. So under industrial emissions, so we have classified the industrial units under registered and unregistered. So registered units are the industrial units which are registered with PCB under OCMS portal. So these industries will have some kind of calculation control devices in order for them to get a CTO or CTE form. Unregistered industries, we identified the manufacturing units under Udyam portal, and then we filtered out the industries which could have some kind of combustion waste process in them. So in Ludhiana, the registered industries is around 4.6K, unregistered were around 5,000 uh, unregistered units. In Varanasi, since it's not a industrial area, we found very less registered units, but whereas the unregistered was around 4,000 units. Coming to the fuel cell, Ludhiana is highly biomass dominant, where the registered industries consume around 68, or registered industries main fuel is biomass, with 68% of the energy is being made by biomass based fuels. For Varanasi, coal is the dominant one, majorly in the unregulated sector, and majorly the bricklins. And the most polluting units for Ludhiana and Varanasi are both had textile as the most polluting units, but Ludhiana also had steel industries, which contributed significantly to the total PM2.5 emission load. When we see the mitigated versus the unmitigated share, in Ludhiana, the mitigated industries contributed 82% of the total industrial load, whereas in Varanasi, mitigated industries contributed only 17%. But the total load is high for Ludhiana, since it's a industrial area with lot of large and medium scale industries. Coming to the agriculture sector, so Ludhiana is a highly high cultivated area compared to Varanasi. Around 35% of the cultivated area in Ludhiana is being burned. Varanasi 18%. But the good news for Ludhiana is that the burnt area in Ludhiana has been decreased by 35% between 2019 to 2025, whereas Varanasi we are seeing a increase in the recent times. But the when we see the total load, Ludhiana agriculture emission is around 4,000 tons. Varanasi is just 500 tons. And all of these emissions are unmitigated because there is no control mechanism in stubble burning. Coming to the transportation sector, when we see the vehicle fleet, the number of vehicles registered in each category of vehicles, 15 to 20 years, 10 to 15, 5 to 10, and less than 5 years old vehicles, it's almost same. But when we look at the emission share, the vehicles which are registered between 15 to 20 years and 10 to 15 years, that is very the vehicles which are older than 10 years, they contribute around 70% of the total emissions. Under transport emissions, all the emissions are considered mitigated because these vehicles follow some BS norms, and BS norms mandate to have some kind of filters installed in the engines. So in Varanasi, we also had ferries which primarily use diesel as their fuel. So those comes under unmitigated section, but they contribute less than 1% of the Varanasi's total transportation emission. Now coming to the next three sectors: domestic, commercial, and DG. Domestic is the highest contributing unmitigated source in both the districts. If you see the fuel usage, both the districts had LPG penetration rate more than 90%, but however, both the district had mixed fuel use in the range of 50 to 60% in the rural areas, whereas in the urban areas, the numbers were quite good. Coming to the emissions part, emissions is majorly from cooking, and the second most is from space heating and water heating. So cooking contributes around 83% of the total load, more than 80% for both the districts. And the total load we have identified both the districts. Total emission is around 6,000 tons for Varanasi and 5,800 tons for Ludhiana, and it's all unmitigated sector because there is no emission control equipment. Similarly, for commercial sector, there is no emission control equipment, so all the pollution will fall under unmitigated emissions. when you see the fuel usage compared to the domestic sector, commercial fuel usage is pretty bad, with LPG contributing only around 40% of the total fuel consumption. So DG set, we have also quantified the emissions from the DG sets. Basically, we categorized the DG sets into residential, commercial, and industrial DG sets. In both the districts, the residential DG set is primarily powered by the smaller DG sets. Commercial is powered by 375 to 750 kVA category DG sets, and industrial is by the larger DG sets. The emission, the total emissions from the DG sets in Ludhiana was around 174 tons per year, and Varanasi was around 88 tons per year, with 20% of it is mitigated, and Varanasi 4% is mitigated. So the mitigated DG sets are the ones which are present in industries and which are registered with PCBs under OCMS portal, and the industry and the DGCs which are registered after 2023, which are supposed to follow CPCB norms. So Ludhiana had 22,000 DGCs, and Varanasi had around 11,000 DGCs. Now, when we aggregated the total emissions across all the pollutants, a clear pattern emerges. When we, for Ludhiana, when we see the PM, CO, and CO2 concentration, especially, more than 50% of the emissions are from unmitigated sources. For PM, you can see the transport and the industries mitigated contributed like around 44% of the total load, which are mitigated, and the unmitigated around 30% each from domestic and industries unmitigated were dominant in PM2.5 in Ludhiana district. Whereas SOx and NOx, they are primarily from industries regulated ones. SOx and emissions are from industries regulated, and NOx are from transportation emissions, which both of these are mitigated. The total load was around 30,000 tons for PM10, 21 for PM2.5, and SO2 was around 11K tons, and NOx 35K tons, and CO 175 tons. We also estimated black carbon and CO2 emissions as well. For black carbon, it was around 3,000 tons, and CO2 6891 kilotons for Ludhiana. When we come to Varanasi, there is a very huge difference, because Varanasi did not have a significant emissions from agriculture, or it also does not have significant emissions from the industries which are regulated. So when we see PM, CO, CO2, and SO2, most of the emissions are from unmitigated sources. For example, if we see PM, most of the emissions are from domestic sector, which is around 44% of the total load. Transportation was around 30%, and regulated industries was around 12% of the total load. So only like 38% of the emissions were from regulated sector, and majority of the emissions were from the unmitigated sector. Only the NOx load were from mitigated emissions, where 79% of the emissions were from transportation sector. So coming to the control options, we identified control options, and we group them under three different categories. One is fuel switch, the next one is technology adoption, and the last one is like regulatory changes or process improvement, etc. So we identified different control options under different sectors, and we tried to estimate how much emission reduction it's possible for each of these particular control option when implemented in alone. So we found that fuel switch was emerging as the key control options with which could give major emission reduction potential. For domestic sector, switching to LPG completely or electric and urban PNG expansion would give around like 20% of the total emission reduction potential that was achieved under ambitious scenario. For transportation, it was installing DPF filters in HCVs and trucks. And for under agriculture, we will have to improve the process of the existing CRM machines and building XC2 CBG plants. So if the left side graph gives you the PM2.5 projection of Ludhiana from 2025 to 2035. Under the BAU scenario, the emission is expected to increase by only by 3%, mainly because the agriculture emissions with the current trend, we expect the agriculture emission to completely reduce, or we expect the agriculture emission to reduce significantly till 2035. So under the ambitious scenario, the Ludhiana could achieve emission reduction of around 67%, and under targeted reduction scenario, the district could achieve emission reduction of 40%. In Varanasi, we expect the total emission load to increase by 21% in BA scenario. Under ambitious scenario, the emission reduction would be 61% and 36% in the target reduction scenario. Yeah, so these are some of the key insights from our study. First one, we have to expand the current regulatory coverage. So around 52% to 64% of the emissions are from unmitigated sources, means which are not part of the current cleaner strategies. And around 65 to 70% of the emissions that are generated at a district level are from the area which are not inside the city limits. And commercial cooking, almost 98% emissions are unmitigated. So the current action plans focuses on city level actions and majorly mitigated sources. So we have a good opportunity to expand the scope of our current cleaner action strategies. Now coming to the next point, so we found out that around 50% of the emission reduction potential that was achieved lies in fuel transition, like moving from LPG to cleaner, so moving from solid fuels to LPG in domestic sector, or moving from coal to biomass or electric fuels in industry sector. So these two measures turned out to be the key measures for reducing emissions in both the districts. So third one is a strengthened integrated governance. So both the districts would approximately need 7,000 crores for implementing all these plans. But the problem is the investments will come from different sectors. So it's better to have a common district air quality management board with all the line departments in it, and they should coordinate and then prioritize actions in sync, so that there is some synergy between the departments and we could see some positive air quality reduction in the region. Fourth one is like drive behavioral change. In both the districts, LPG penetration rate was more than 90%. Despite of that, around 50% of the domestic households use solid fuels for their cooking needs. So we should also plan to conduct more awareness campaigns and other peer learning programs, so that people actually move from solid fuels to LPG instead of just getting the benefit of the government programs. Yeah, that's it from mine. Pratima, can you please take it forward?
Thank you, Udaya. You can stop sharing. Yep. So everyone, we saw the findings of the study, and it is just not a mere emission inventory study, but also trying to understand what is the share of mitigated versus unmitigated in various sectors. Commercial sector is something which has not been included in our emission inventories till now, because we just focus on domestic cooking. And this sector, 98% of fuel, the emission that is coming out is completely unmitigated. So some very interesting findings from this study, and I would want to take this opportunity again to welcome our esteemed panel here, who are experts working in the domain. And we will have a a round of interaction with everyone on different topics from the study findings itself. So let me welcome Dr. Neeraj Rastogi. Professor Neeraj Rastogi is the leading scientist with very extensive experience working in the aerosol domain. He earned his PhD from PRL Ahmedabad, and he did his postdoctoral in Georgia Institute of Technology and for 3 years at the University of Toronto. And I want to mention that he focuses his work is completely focused on upper tropospheric level aerosols, and that has earned him a position in NASA Group Achievement Awards. Currently, he's also the president of ISTA, which is Indian Aerosol Science and Technology Association. He's the president of ISTA, and has been leading and mentoring a lot of students in India working in this domain. So welcome, Professor Neeraj. Next, I would want to welcome Dr. Kirpa Ram. He's the associate professor, Department of Chemistry, Institute of Science, BHU. Dr. Kirpa Ram, can you please switch on your camera? Are you there? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so Kirparam has his PhD from again PRL, and he has been working in this domain since long, and he also is a part of National Clean Air Program, where BHU is an institute of repute under the program, and Dr. Kirparam has been extensively supporting the state of Uttar Pradesh in terms of monitoring, in terms of evaluating the clean air strategies, and then supporting the government and the various officials towards understanding the science of air pollution, training them on regular basis. So welcome, Dr. Kirpa. Next, I have Dr. Trilok sir, who is an accomplished environmental scientist and atmospheric researcher for more than a decade now. And currently, he is a senior research establishment official at National Aerosol Facility, IIT Kanpur. And he played a key role in establishing aerosol facility at IIT Kanpur, South Asia first national aerosol facility. He did his PhD in environmental chemistry and MSc in physics. Again, an expert in aerosol cloud climate modeling and interactions. And he has published extensively in various publications with a lot of citations. Welcome, Dr. Saad. Lastly, last but not the least, we have Dr. Arindam Roy with us. He has PhD in environmental science from Bose Institute, University of Calcutta. He works on measuring and modeling short-lived climate pollutants in different atmospheric environments in India. And following his PhD, he has worked for civil society organizations where he directly plans and implements climate adaptation and mitigation projects in India, Bangladesh, and Bhutan. He has worked as scientist in Ecole Polytechnique, EPFL, where he worked with various Indian municipalities on clean air actions. And besides research, he's also a co-founder of a climate communication platform in Bengal, which is his native language. And that is very important, that as researchers, as scientists, how do we communicate the scientific outputs in a simplified manner so that it reaches the citizen groups, the common man, so that they can also be part of the implementation process and support the government in a way. So again, welcome everyone. I'll start with Professor Neeraj. So Professor Neeraj, we've seen that almost 53% of the fuel that is being used in Ludhiana and Varanasi, around 68%, 62%. It's unmitigated. We have not even looked at these sources till now. The emission inventories capture large industries which are regulated, or where we have cleaner fuel but it is unmitigated. And there's a huge gap that this study highlights. Do you think that the science of emission inventories and understanding on how we developed our inventories needs to now change and focus on the technology and the fuel that we are using, rather than just focusing on activities that are contributing to pollution in cities?
Okay, so first of all, thank you there. It was a nice presentation. And then what you are saying is absolutely correct. Means, but one thing I would like to add here means we are talking about unmitigated sources. In addition to unmitigated, there are unaccounted sources also. That means we are not even counting them.
Correct.
So means one thing is we can mitigate, and one thing we have to try to identify as much as possible the sources in our surroundings. So certainly, if we are going to use cleaner technology, say for example, when you talk about domestic sector or commercial sector, if we can provide them here, means multiple things have to come into picture. It's not only means we can't enforce people that okay, no, you can't burn something or something. We have to provide cleaner fuel, better technology, and it has to reach to means अंत्योदय जो बोलते हैं ना means the last person if he is getting that. And in addition, Udaya was also telling that sensitizing the people that they should know that means what they are doing actually can not only harm him but everyone in the surrounding. And majority of the people are not doing things knowingly. They don't know what will happen. They just do it and think okay, it has gone to the air. So those things are important to consider. And certainly, those things are already said by Udaya that if we are going to use clean technology, then he has shown, and which I agree with. Yeah.
Right, right. Yes, definitely. I agree that, sensitization is very important, but we also need to look at what is unaccounted for around us. And only if we do that, our cleaner strategies will be effective going forward. Yeah. Moving to Dr. Roy, I want to understand that, like we have defined what is unmitigated, where there are no air pollution control devices, and there is no control on the emission that is happening. What do you think, how important is to consider this unmitigated fuel, and what will be its impact going forward in clean air framework for India?
Thanks a lot, Fatima. That's a great question, particularly and congratulations to iFOREST for the study. It's amazing. It's first of its kind, and also it's substantially generate evidence to focus on sectors which is less equitable. I mean, one of the things that our always we have a focus on the bigger sectors, the chunk like transports, like the industry, and that's great. It's very good to have those bigger sector in consider, but there are sectors which doesn't falls into conventional air quality monitoring or compliances category, and those are the sectors which need special attention because there are it's linked to emissions, but it's also linked to livelihood directly. The change is more difficult there, so the attention, the finance, and the everything is quite holistic. Assessment of the report was quite impressive. So one of the important bits that you mentioned, that it's not small. So what we get it from the two city study, that it's not small at all, and I would be surprised if global inventories are capturing this. I'm pretty sure they're not. So I think these are local informations, possibly ready to move towards more global inventories, global, put it in a more comprehensive ways. I do think there is because the quantum is not small, so there is a huge chance that the health and the climate impact would be huge. On the health side, I think the exposure, especially linking to, seeing this industries like smaller scale industries, and also like cooking, commercial cookings and establishment, etc. There is a huge chance of inequitable exposure from the health side of the thing. So I think very important to capture those and focus on mitigating them to for a more equitable air pollution mitigation outcomes. On the climate side of the thing, I think these are very much uncontrollable or incomplete combustion. So definitely able to generate tons of a lot of black carbon. And especially we know, like, in the Indo-Gangetic Plains, the black carbon plays a major role in Indian summer monsoon perturbations, on the cryosphere melting in the Himalayas, and this. So I think it's very important to characterize these sorts and mitigate in terms of near-term climate impact, and also mitigations of, like, really older vehicles. The amount of older vehicles that you have captured over the cities, they're really, really important. Uh, in one of the cities, if I'm not wrong, I think 9% of the vehicle fleets actually contributing to 32% of the PM2.5, which is clearly showing like why we need to target the super emitters. So overall, yes, health, it would help us if we address these sources. It would help us to address more equitable air quality management. And then on the climate side of the thing, the short-term climate impact would be largely benefited through intervention of these sources.
Thanks, Arindam, so much, and definitely some brilliant points that we will be discussing in our panel. Thank you for highlighting them. Let me just go to Dr. Saad and put you in a difficult situation here, and ask you a question that, looking at the regulatory and the governance structure that we have in India, and the compliance mechanism that we have specifically for industries. It's all focused on large industries. We are not even targeting the small or really micro industries, which are hardly registered, or probably operating at a rural village area, and they contribute hugely because the source of fuel that they are using is usually biomass and rice husk, and that goes unaccounted, as Professor Neeraj was saying, and the kind of emission that it is contributing, these kind of fuel, it not only polluting the environment, but also, as Arindam said, that the health is also at risk for these lower strata income people. So what do you feel? How do we, regulate these smaller industries, and how do we ensure that compliance is improved going forward?
Okay. Thank you, Pratima. First of all, just I would like to congratulate for your report. It's a very nice report, and you are basically considering these domestic sectors is very hugely polluting sector, and compliance and that things, regarding that things, actually we have India has good regulations on paper. We have the emission standards that exist, and pollution control laws are there. But the thing is that the major issues are with the implementation mechanisms, right? And one major thing is data availability. Okay, so how to trace that emissions from from that particular rural areas? We have the CA chemistry students mostly in the urban areas or the semi-urban areas, but there is no such monitoring in the rural areas. So we did some special coverage, the data and the temporal and spatial coverage, so that we can, with high resolution data, like in the scales of few 100 meters, then only trace that from where these emissions are coming. Right. So now whatever the IT Kanpur is specifically doing, that sensor-based measurement, like if we deploy the sensors in very high resolutions area, I mean say around 100 to 200 meters, then we can monitor what the PM levels are coming, in particular that specific locations. And now in Birmingham University, they are also just trying to get this local source apportionment, because traditional source apportionment is very difficult. It's a very you have to use the high-end instruments like AMS, metal monitors, and all the chemical species and all the informations are required for P positive metric factorization. right? So now they are trying to get, if we are getting that with a broad spectrum of PM concentrations, then from that we can get the source informations. Once you have the data, you have the source informations. If it is integrated with the DSS system, like decision support systems, so immediately we can take the actions. All right. Now the thing is that here we have all the laws are available. Even recently, Delhi government has, I think, formulated some mitigation action plan. All right. So these laws are available in place. But the thing is that the problem is that this is a systematic implementation crisis. Right. And then thing is that one thing why it's failing. So if you take the penalties is somehow it's lower than that adaptation of the mitigation options. If it is 5 lakh, the penalty is around 50,000. Suppose it's like that, the people will prefer for the penalties. They won't go for the mitigations. So in that case, government should take some initiatives, something like that, some subsidy or something has to be given to them. Like to implement the cleaner fuel, cleaner efficient, suppose Sula, you're talking about the rural, they are basically using donkey fuel and then other crop residue or that burning. If you implement it, some cleaner that Sula or something with subsidy, then people definitely try to adopt it. But if you're not giving any subsidy, then it will be difficult to implement that mitigation options. Second, to monitor that what are the leakages are coming, basically what unmitigated sources emissions are coming, so that inspection that we do not have such huge manpower. So only that real-time monitoring system has to be deployed. So that is, and third, so there should not be any political interference, something like that. That politicians should help to mitigate these things. So overall, I can say that enforcement alone is not enough, and there are some barriers also that we have to help financially, like in terms of subsidy. And they are not aware, don't have that awareness about the technology, which technology they have to adopt. So public awareness is also one of the major important things that we have to implement. And then I think these three are the barriers that we have to, if we work on that financing part, and then technology, which technology they should adopt, and then if you organize some public awareness that why this is important, then I think to some extent we can be able to reduce the pollutions.
Great, great. Thank you, sir. I really like a couple of pointers that you made. First, I just want to highlight that you mentioned that, emission inventory, source apportionment studies, they will help us to understand where the
Yeah,
sources are. But sorry to say that, all these studies are done only at the city level. They don't go
yeah,
beyond the city boundary. So we do not have any understanding on what is happening at a district level, or even beyond the city boundary also in the suburban areas, we don't have any understanding. Only through
yeah. That
modeling
that
exercises, we will be able to understand what is the contribution. But we have not gone beyond the city boundaries even to understand what is happening on ground to even regulate or
yeah.
understand that.
Yeah, that's why I'm just telling that regulatory bodies should scale up the monitoring infrastructure,
Right,
so
right.
that then only we can get the data, and then only what actually exactly happening. So accordingly, we have to formulate the policy, and then we can compliance and that things other will come later.
Right.
So,
So, for the compliance, industries and transportation is the only two sector where, the air pollution control devices or
yeah,
technology improvement has happened where, most of the fuel is mitigated. However, in other sectors, still there is a huge scope. And how do we improve the regulations? Let's say for even diesel generators or
yeah,
commercial eateries, the street vendors, the hotels, or everywhere where they are using solid fuel for cooking. So how do we enforce? Because I don't think so there is any regulations for commercial sector or eateries, on the type of fuel
yeah,
they are using, or there is any penalty for them. So we definitely need to think in that direction, and then see how we
Yeah.
can improve. So yeah,
Yeah,
we
we have to,
definitely
yeah,
come back on
sure.
your systemic implementation strategy that needs to be improved. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Now moving to Dr. Kirparam, I want to understand from you, we saw that in Ludhiana, only 18% is unmitigated and rest is mitigated because there are air pollution control devices that are being used. However, in Varanasi, though the pollution load is only around 2,000 kilotons per year, it's very less from the industry sector because these are very small industries. But then 80% of it's unmitigated. Uh, the iron and steel industry, the textile industry, where dyeing is being used, where the boilers or furnace are being used. There is no air pollution control devices, or there are devices that are not functional, or we do not have any clarity on that. So, how do we ensure that, we have suitable pollution control technologies available for these small industries, MSMEs, and what should be done so that their adoption of these technologies increase? You are on mute, Dr. Kirparam. Okay, by the time Dr. Kirparam is figuring out this technical problem, I'll move to Dr. Neeraj. So, Dr. Neeraj, as you saw in the research, that a lot of air pollutants are, impacting SOx and NOx is mostly mitigated, but there's CO, there's CO2, there's other short-lived climate pollutants that are getting emitted from the use of this unregulated and unmitigated fuel use, and definitely there is going to be a larger impact on the climate aspect as well. And do you think that our air pollution strategies that we have at the city level first needs to be expanded to the district level or a regional airshed that we talk about? And how do we incorporate the air pollution strategies and the climate aspect together so that the effort that are divided right now among the various departments, they work together and they can be more impactful?
Okay, so this is a very good question, Fatima. So, actually, I wanted to talk about it, even if you would have not asked. See, it is like, it is like if we are cleaning our house. So, that is individual things. I can keep my house clean. But when we talk about air, it is something that is what we say in one of the slides they have shown that what if some a large chunk of pollutant you are getting from outside the city. So he was talking about the increasing the area. But it is not means you can't go one city to two city. It is a big thing. So you have to say, for example, Indo-Gangetic Plain, and any winter, any satellite picture you see that you see the red, whole red channel. That means everything is connected. So whatever you are emitting at Ludhiana may affect Varanasi also, or even further. Means it goes up to Bay of Bengal. That means when we are talking about the source mitigation, we should not focus only on the local thing because it is a bigger thing. So we have to look the things together. So for example, for Punjab or UP, it is not the problem of Punjab and UP alone. It is from Punjab up to Bengal.
Right.
So we have to work together in a
Correct.
way that means, and we have to identify. So there are different type of approaches people are using. So we have to identify the major sources, what can and best things. So multiple time people come up with a cleaning afterwards, filtering it out or those kind of thing, which is not a good thing actually. Stopping the pollution at the source itself, that is the best thing we can do. And for that is the clean technology, which was already discussed, that if you are using clean technology, or if you cannot use clean technology, then at least stop the thing which is coming out. So that means mitigate at the source itself.
Right.
And then when you are talking about the linking between this air quality which affect us versus climate which affect our Earth, both are interlinked. So means there is no differentiation actually. If you see, they are very well connected. So black carbon, Arindam was talking about. Black carbon will not only affect your health; it is affecting the if you go vertically up, it changes the temperature. So it is changing the heat and holding capacity of water vapor in the atmosphere, which can lead to high precipitation in many areas. So that means on one side it is affecting your health, other side it is affecting the precipitation. So these are by default interlinked. So we have to see the things in a much bigger picture. And one more thing I would like to add here. See, whenever we talk about the potential, all the sector what Uday was talking
अभी
about.
आवाज आ रहा है?
हाँ,
Dr.
कृपा आ रहा है, लेकिन just let me complete. हाँ, अभी आ गया था तुम्हारा आवाज. Okay. So other thing which we are missing is secondary pollutant. That is again very important thing. See, we know that aerosols are not only primary emitted, but they are forming in the atmosphere. And that formation depends upon multiple things. Condition of the atmosphere, temperature, humidity, oxygen present in the surrounding and all. And they vary from place to place. That means same emission at different places will not lead to the same PM concentration everywhere. So that is again, a very big missing point which people usually don't consider, because it is not a universal. It is localized, depending upon meteorological condition. Yeah, so these are the points I wanted to make. Now, Kripa, yes, can go back to him.
Thank you, Dr. Neeraj. Yes, Dr. Kripa.
Yeah, sorry, actually, there was some problem. Okay.
No worries, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for this very nice presentation and nice study. I think this is one of the things that we were looking at, how much actually is unmitigated fuel that is contributing. In Varanasi, it's of course there are lots of things like brick kilns they were not taught about. Textile industries, although the problem is that textile industries are still running on the older technologies. So there are now, I have heard from several meetings in SPCV that they are actually planning to shift to newer and cleaner fuel technologies. But I think implementation wise they are a little slow, so we need to be a little faster on that one. So once this is done, probably we'll have lesser emissions from that one. Just to add one more point here, that actually when we talk about unaccounted or unmitigated fuels, domestic waste, and then if you to some extent in Varanasi we see lots of municipal solid waste burning even, and then local people that they burn that one, that can contribute immensely. And the problem is that these are the mixed kind of fuels, so they are not only burning, the quality of the pollution that is coming, it's very bad. We talked about PM2.5, black carbon, carbon monoxide, but these emits a lots of toxic pollutants like polyaromatic hydrocarbons and volatile organic compounds, which are actually in the particulate or in the gaseous phase anyway. So these could have even more severe health impact, and that needs to be looked into. And just to add that we did one study in Kathmandu with some of our colleagues, and there we found that even in the local city in Kathmandu, there were almost like 30% of this of unaccounted or unmitigated fuel was contributing to PM2.5. So yes, you are absolutely correct. Unmitigated fuels needs to be actually taken care probably, and then has to be managed properly.
Great, great. Thank you, Dr. Kripa. And I'm going to take a cue from what you said, that we need to include unmitigated in our studies. And I'm gonna go to Arindam. Arindam, why do you think that unmitigated fuel has remained outside the mainstream clean air planning and the strategy development? What could be the probable options? Like, is it the compliance? Is it the identification of a technology, or the financing, or even the institutional collaboration mechanism, how we work? What you think is the problem?
Thanks a lot. I think one of the important bits is it's a data blind spot for the entire unmitigated fuel sectors. Like it's unregistered, it's unmonitored, it's often scattered across different geographies, different places. So there is no way. And also the other bits is it's very seasonal, right? It's seasonal, it varies a lot year by year. One year you have a high winter or high rain, things like that can actually changes a lot in terms of uses. So I think it's a data blind spot we have presently that compelled us possibly not accounting these emissions. The other things what you mentioned previously, Pratima, that it's our monitoring systems possibly stops beyond the municipal boundaries. So I think that's one of the other reasons that especially the peri-urban regions where a lot of development has been happening. We always say this term like uncontrollable urban spalling and that sort of a thing which is happening all across and agglomerations and those. So I think with that these proportions will be much higher beyond the municipal area, which is presently the designated areas. And I think that's also another reason that this goes unaccounted for. It's and also the proportions, like I think before this study, I mean, if someone asked uh, an expert, we possibly would have think something like a 5%, 7% proportion. I'm very sure about that. Like it's like this is we couldn't think of a reason that this might be a bigger than we expected. I think there is a preconceived notions around it when we decide to work on the urban emissions inventory or focusing on that and more concrete sources that we know very well. So I think there is a data blind spot overall that is contributing to this because it's largely invisible. And now that we know that it can be of that substantial proportion, I'm expect that more and more study will go beyond the municipal boundaries or go beyond like the traditional sectoral divisions or subsectoral divisions to look into this with the one of the many things I like about this study is it's a bottom up estimate. So you actually go and physically talk to the people, collect data from the field, which is extremely essential to understand the dynamics and the quantum of the entire emissions informations. It's not like only based on literature reviews and stuff. I mean, again, like there will be many uncertainty from the emission factor side of the thing, but at least from the activity data side of the thing, I think with the kind of effort you did with survey and finding representative populations, they're really good. And
Yeah.
there is, of course, a regulatory blind spot is there. Like most air quality programs historically, it's focused on large industries, transport. I mean, this we have discussed a little bit. Small informal industries, rural combustion sources, peri-urban activities. I mean, one of the important bits, like a couple of years back, I have seen a report where they have done this rural emissions of like rural west burning sort of a survey across some of the districts, and they found a considerable, like most of the west that accumulated in the rural regions are being burned, like compared to urban regions where you have a like a source of segregation and that sort of a thing. Maybe we don't know, like these are could be the sources that we are not accounting for now, but this can be really huge in terms of and regular sources out there. So yeah, I would mostly focus on the data blind spot here, that it's not because it's small. I mean, we thought it's small, it's not, like from the study it's very clear, but it's also dispersed. Like you have to collect data from a very diverse, very huge amount of, like, the geographical spread is huge. It's also informal, not tied to any of the emission inventory or the database of higher authorities. And also, like the monitoring framework and regulatory framework, I think this is another thing. Like I think it's very it's it's very typical to developing perspective that these are the sources. It's possibly we wouldn't find most of the sources specific emission factors in the emission factors database. I mean, again, those are assumptions and all, but yeah, for me, I think it's the data missing is the major reason that it's largely remain invisible and unaddressed.
Yep. But I agree to that. There's a data blind spot here that we have never considered the unaccounted and unmitigated fuel. We have carried out our emission inventories in a standard format within the city, consider the sectors, see what is polluting, what is regulated, and then consider it. But I want to draw your attention to the fact that agriculture is 100% unmitigated and the data is there. We have the data and there was no blind spot on that. So I'm going to speak to Dr. Saud here and talk about the agriculture sector where we saw that, it's completely unmitigated because the stubble is just burnt. Okay, and also the pump sets, the threshers, and where diesel consumption is happening, there is also no air pollution control device used. So the diesel consumption and the stubble burning in the agriculture sector, we have known this data set from ages, but there has no intervention. I mean, there are policies and regulations in place to reduce stubble burning, but how do we ensure that agriculture sector, which is completely unmitigated, will be able to move towards mitigated? Do you see that vision for India?
Yeah, some technology we have to develop. So how to use that crop residue, that things can be means waste to wealth. We have to think in that way, and government should help. So without burning, how they can get some profits from that. So in that way, we can mitigate this. Otherwise, people generally used to burn it. That is the easiest options for them. So some technology, but still what technology is available and where it should be feasible to them also, so that they can adopt. So in that way, we have to think. Then only I think we have to reduce. There is no other.
Do you think that the regulations for the agricultural sector, what we have right now, and the kind of unmitigated emission is happening from the sector, is there a complementarity in this, or do we need to go beyond the regular policy making for the agriculture sector and think of something out of the box to ensure that the burning can be stopped? Dr. Saad, can you hear me?
Yeah, you asked me or you asked Dr. Neeraj?
No, I'm asking you.
Okay. So now, actually, please repeat it.
So I'm saying that, we do have some regulations,
Yeah.
but for the agriculture sector, the kind of burning that is happening, do you think that the traditional policies that we have in place of providing incentives to the farmers for not burning towards using a percentage of stubble in thermal power plants or other industry sectors for boilers, do we need to go in the same direction, or do we need to, think of some additional interventions that can help reduce the stubble burning? Or do we focus on district level engagement with the farmers and developing a market mechanism that is strong enough to collect the stubble and use it as a fuel rather than burning it away?
I think that district level, that initiatives we have to take, because that all rules and regulations are in place, but the things are not happening as on date. So I think somewhere some strict regulations or some penalties or something has to be imposed. Then only I think they will stop burning.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Dr. Kirpa, so I'll come to you. Now, we have got to the point that, we know that more than 50% of the emission is coming outside from the city boundary. And obviously, it's not only impacting the city, but it will go beyond the region. As Dr. Neeraj was saying, it will go towards the eastern side, India, and across other locations also. So, and it has a greater impact, not only to the cities and the humans, but also to the environment. So what should be, how this study can help to revise the framework, the existing clean air management framework that we have in India, and move beyond the city or the development authority boundary and include the airshed approach. Or even if we are not, able to define the airshed in a proper manner, but at least include the district boundary in a clear fashion, so that the strategies can be, made robust. And because I feel that air pollution governance is also one of the challenges where the implementation is not happening, could be the reason because of the governance system that we have in India. But if we work in a defined boundary, let's say district boundary, our governance is defined, and probably we can enhance the mechanism to solve the problem. So what do you feel about it? Will this study help to, you know, change the mindset, that we should move beyond city now? It's high time.
Oh yes, I think that that's very certainly, and because one of the reason probably that we were not aware of that this unmitigated fuel burning could be contributing that much significantly. Probably we had no idea actually, and as I said that this study has provided a very clear insight that yes, it is contributing and it's contributing significantly. Now there are two problems here. If we have to manage this one, we have to first see the segregation has to be done properly. Whenever you are using or burning a mixed fuel, it's very burning or kind of whether you are going for any management plan. If you are not segregating the different kind of fuels, it will be very difficult to manage that one. So first thing is there, we have to be very clear that we have to segregate the waste, whatever is there, we have to segregate that one. Coming back to this crop residue burning or SW burning, there are two problems that are associated with this. Now, if you see this, for example, rice kind of things that contains lots of silica in that one. So uh, because of the silica content in this one, it becomes very difficult to directly decompose them. So you have a very high content of silica. So earlier, for example, some of these things were used for organic fertilizers making, like, in the smallest scales at the village levels, every individual houses used to do that. But the problem is that it contains lots of silica. So the silica decomposition becomes difficult in this one. There are studies, and I think I am not right now recalling that one, but there are studies, they have developed some kind of, chemicals which can be sprayed on those stubbles, and they can be used for decomposing, so they can decompose the faster. The second problem is that wherever we talk about the stubble burning, usually it so happens that just after the rice harvesting is done, you have maximum 2 weeks to 3 weeks of time for the farmers to grow the wheat, right? Plantation of the wheat. So this becomes, the time period is very low, and the only, I mean, there is no logical solution to this kind of how they can actually manage those waste. So they just burn it actually. That is one of the reason, because the time gap is very low. So one of the things, if this time gap could be increased, for example, which doesn't seems to be likely, because our rice production or the paddy, this one is actually highly dependent on the monsoon season. So this is becoming very difficult for us. So somehow we have to develop technologies which can decompose these paddy when crop residues faster. So I think there are some studies, but they have not been very on a larger scale. So that we have to do on that one. So this is one thing that we have to always take care. Of course, providing the incentives to the farmers could be one of the very good things, because we have to tell them that okay, this is causing the problem, but then we cannot just tell them that it is causing a problem. We have to provide them solution, right? This is the kind of things that, okay, if this is a problem, how they are going to solve, or what should be they doing that one. So probably more research towards this, like how this can be used. The organic content in the soil is already degrading. It's degrading. So if we could convince the government and the farmers as well that if you just uh, unlike burning this one, rather burning these stubble things are waste. If we can just somehow make these organic fertilizers and use this as a carbon sink in the soil, the quality of the soil will also increase, and at the same time the management of this will be there. It has to come from the government actually, because this has to be certainly incentivized. And the soil quality, in order to improve the soil quality, this could be a two kind of win-win situation. We will also reduce the stubble burning at the same time. At the same time, it will be contributing to our soil quality. So I think that
Right.
that could be one of the good options.
Right. No, definitely this is a sector that we all need to think seriously, because it's not only air pollution but also the climate
Yes,
impact, the carbon, the fertilizers that are being used, the methane emissions. It's quite huge,
exactly.
and we definitely need to have regulations, technology interventions in place, along with sustained financing and an incentive mechanism for the farmers, because I believe just regulations are not going to help, because when you
Ex-
go on ground and talk to the farmers, many a times they don't even know what kind of incentive is being floated, because they
exactly.
update at the very last minute. So yes, definitely a sector that needs a very serious thinking. Great.
And just give me a second. Actually, not only the carbon, methane, this because of these use of this kind of chemical fertilizers, another prominent greenhouse gas N2O that is coming actually in very heavy amount. So this N2O is becoming another big problem for climate mitigation. So this is another very contributing and rising scenario for the climate things. So yeah,
Right.
we have to take care of that.
Great, perfect.
Thank you.
I'll move to Dr. Neeraj. So, Dr. Neeraj, on top of your head, what comes, like, what are the initiatives in terms of regulations, compliance, interventions that the government should be focusing in the next 2 to 3 years? Because I feel that the next 2 to 3 years are going to be very crucial in terms of air pollution and climate mitigation, if we want to even achieve the net zero scenario going forward. And air pollution is a sector that is going to impact the overall climate aspect. So where should we focus? We understand that there are unaccounted fuel and the activities around us which are not considered in our scientific studies. There are unregulated mechanisms which are not working efficiently, and which are considered mitigated. So what should be the next step for us? In which direction do we move?
Okay, again, this is a very interesting and important question. So let me just try to put things together, whatever I feel about this. So when we talk about this, you showed the effect of this unmitigated. So if we provide the people clean technology, for example, Ujjwala Yojana. So government has supplied the shelter, but at the same time we have to sensitize people also. This I will add one more thing at the end. Let me first tell what you asked. So one thing is providing the clean technology at subsidized rate, or if possible free. If not free, then to the cost or slightly with subsidy, and let people get used to of it. So more and more clean technology, that means emission will reduce, and that will obviously ultimately it will affect the air quality also. I would also like to add what Kripa and Saud was talking about this agriculture. So that is also part of it. In one of the meeting, I heard, I don't know whether it is in means on ground it is happening or not, but I heard that NTPC is buying the this petty residue for the power generation, and if it is going there, that means power plant are mitigated. So if emission will not remove, it will be reduced at least, because it is coming via regulated thing. But as Kripa was saying, this time is very small between the, and this is very easy. Just take a 50 paisa matches and one tili, and then you are done. Compared to somebody will come and then take the thing, and so this has to be done on a kind of very fast scale and give some decent amount. So if somebody will think that okay, whatever I am going to burn, actually it can give me money, and at the same time, that is, let me tell at that part also, sensitization people is very important. If everybody understand that what we are doing actually can harm us, our family, our neighbors, everyone, and not only here, but downwind all the way, thousands of kilometers it can affect. So that sensitization is very important. At Asta level, we are trying to do something. Say, I request iFOREST as well as other organization or people who are sitting here, that is try to tell people in very simple language, easily understandable. Make cartoon, make small reels, short videos, and sensitize that okay, means what are the things, give both problem and solution both. If you are using this will happen. If you are using that one, this is how you are going to add to the society. So that way means if we improve, that will certainly, I feel, it will affect ultimately the air quality of our country.
Yes, it has to be a collective effort and not only left completely to the government's initiative. We all need to work together and in a simplified and easy fashion so that it's achievable. Yeah, great. Thank you, Dr. Nisha. I'll come to Dr. Arindam. Now, ultimately, everything comes down to the point that where do we get the finances from? If we are talking about implementing a technology or a cleaner fuel or even create awareness among the citizen groups, who is going to finance this? And how do we sustain the finance for mitigating the emissions from unmitigated sources? Yeah.
Thanks a lot. That's a great, and that's kind of the center of the entire discussions, right? Like who will fund this? So I guess like there are a couple of things. So some of these unmitigated sector, not all of them, but some of these there will be opportunity of voluntarily carbon market to get engaged in some of these solutions, some of these unmitigated sectors, and India has just started the market is growing, the voluntary carbon market is growing in India, and we have started working on this. So it's a good opportunity to lie some of them, and also that's one. Some of them will be funded possibly through developmental fundings, through banks, etc., especially if we able to demonstrate the impact and clearly message out the short-term and the long-term health and climate benefit. As you mentioned, like, there are this has been done for two particular districts, but I do think there's a need for this to be built at a more of a national level with a futuristic pathways showing what it can do if in a business as usual scenario. So I do think like that's possibly one of the way forward, because unless it's at the district level, the proportion looks very impressive, but unless it's a national level that huge of a proportions, we may not able to get that fraction from the funding agencies on this particular bit. So I think those are the major stuff, and also like as you mentioned, some of it will also be part of our decarbonization pathways if the correct sort of a data and data driven messaging has been done correctly. So there is a scope of integrating some of these unmitigated sector under either Swachh Bharat or any of the other plans like that government already have, and kind of push that sectors into it. So I guess there will be, it's not a silver bullet in terms of financing. There will be mix and match for each of the financing overall. I mean, I would say even things like, the small business owner who want to transform by themselves, presenting a business case study, like, making a business case to them that in 2 years, in 3 years, with new technology, you would possibly reach break even, and then in 5 years, possibly you will be gaining money from doing this. So I think those business studies will, for typical some of the sectors, will be crucial in transforming. And also finally, so it's a combination of different kind of a finance options, and like the banks facilitate the banks to provide loans for those typical catering industries, like that like a food processing, or that sort of industry, very specific industry, just facilitate the easiness of getting a bank loan for the transactions, and provide options, like we have to demonstrate them options through business fairs, and also like making a business case out of it, so that the small business owner can actually transform or able to transform it, and the rest of it will be taken care of possibly by these things. There are a lot of asterisk marks around it, but I do think that's more or less it. It's a mixed finance approach we have to take for the next step to achieve.
Yeah, I completely agree to that. It cannot be just a public sector or a private sector. It has to be a blended finance that we need to work towards, and that's the only possibility for solving this problem. I'm just going to take one word from what you said, that we need to demonstrate. Okay, so I'm going to ask Dr. Saud to just, answer on this, and then we will wind up. We have a couple of questions from the audience as well. Like, what should be the incentive mechanism that the government should be coming up for various sectors? Like commercial sector, we have seen, that's I did not find much research work happened on the commercial sector, the kind of fuel quantity that is being used. And as Arindam said, that we need to demonstrate. So do you believe, or do you feel that the next step should be moving towards pilots in various sectors, in small units, to understand whether the technology is efficient and it's helping to reduce the emission, or what kind of air pollution control device will be efficient enough or good enough to capture the pollution for commercial, for domestic, for industries, for transportation? So is
Yeah.
this where we should be focusing? Because till now, it's been 5 years of National Clean Air Program, and we have a list of clean air control measures, but we don't know which measure is the most effective one, or what is the emission reduction potential of each measure, because we have not extensively researched in that area. So should we be focusing on the pilots to understand this in a better way?
Yes, actually, to get the information about that pollution levels, so we have to install some device to monitor that pollution levels, what's coming on, right? And so ultimately, what I'm suggesting from present scenario, that we have to scale up the monitors, right? And we should have some DSS system, intelligent, that's called decision support system. Okay, so that needs massive deployment of sensors, and we have the satellite data, and we have the regulatory stations. Combining all this data with the help of machine learning, we can get the hyper-spectral, hyper-local data, right? So once, and it can be integrated with the decision support system that in the dashboard. So SPCB and that and any regulatory body can see where from which locations the data is elevated, right? Suppose PM10 to 2.5 value, it should come less than 50, but it is somewhere it is coming more than 150, 200, that immediately they can take action. Because physical inspection or pilot experiments, that's not feasible for the regulatory bodies as well, because we have limited manpower. So only, I think that is the only solutions. And because now the thing is that mitigations, that we have to follow the airshed approach, right? To get the airshed delineations, we need the data. We need the data with high resolution, right? So only, I think that sensor deployment, that is the easiest way, and it's a low cost things, because high-end instruments we cannot deploy every sectors and every locations. Only we have to deploy a large amount of sensors at the scale of 400 meter then we can, even from that census, if the census can give already I told earlier, broad spectrums like 0.1 to 0.10, that there are different bins. If the particles concentrations are available, then from that spectrum we can get the source information. At least 3 to 4 factors we can get. We will be able to get it. Accordingly, we can immediately think that whether that instrument is efficient or not. Okay, so if that is not efficient, then we can impose penalty or something. Otherwise we have to instruct them that you have to use some diesel particulate DPF or something like that. Other things you have to install like that. In that way, we can give suggestions. If they are not accepting their things, that immediately we can impose penalty. So in that way, to some extent, we can reduce the pollutions. So the thing is that we need a data. This whatever the existing CAQMS stations, data are not enough.
Definitely.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not enough. We need to go beyond and in an extensive manner.
Yeah.
So yes, moving towards the last leg, I have a final question for everyone, and I would want you to invest 1 minute on answering this question. So now we have done this study for two districts in the IGP, Ludhiana and Varanasi, and we saw that more than 50% of the fuel use is unmitigated. Now, if we have to replicate this study at India level and understand what is happening in all the districts and what impact it will create on the overall the environment and the climate, what different would our understanding be on the pollution sources, and what type of interventions we should be focusing in the next 5 years? So what different things we need to do in our strategy, in our framework, if we get an understanding for entire India on unmitigated fuel use and its emissions at district level. Yeah, I'll start with Dr. Neeraj.
Okay. Now again, this is an important question. So what I would say is I will couple the things which are already said by some of the panelists. See, somewhere Arindam mentioned the approach of bottom-up approach. So that means we have to increase the whole India, with covering whole India will be difficult. So we have to see the practicality also. You can increase the sample size. So that means certain type of city, say industrial city, Ludhiana, some more industrial city, some more rural areas, some more urban cities, some more totally, in south. If you go to South India, it is a different kind of environment. So you have to increase the number. Whole India will be difficult, but then you can extrapolate. But at the same time, only bottom up will not help. We have to do top down also, and then see whether they are converging or not. If they are converging, that means we are going fine. If they are not, then we have to look for that what is there missing because of that is not converging. And then now you have satellite. Through satellite, you can South was also mentioning that. So if you have a network, and then suddenly you see that at certain region you are getting very high concentration, which you don't expect through the bottom and top up, bottom up and top down approach, and through modeling, you are getting something very different. Then you can alert that the person responsible for that area, so you check what is happening there. So if we go in that way, I think control will be much easier. And if we understand all the sources, if we can mitigate them, obviously they are going to affect the air quality in a positive way. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Neeraj. Yeah, Arindam.
Yeah, I don't think we can actually get that by through this meeting only. It needs possibly a larger brainstorm. I completely agree with Neeraj that there is a bottoms and up and top down. But I would suggest to find opportunity where if this can be integrated into NCAP in a way that then you actually have 100+ cities to explore. So many of these NCAP cities are doing emission inventories by themselves. So can we integrate that? Can we integrate other line departments? So it's also going through that line departments in the rural developments and that spaces as well. So I would say also with this, like, it's not possible to find like a representative survey data set for the entire across India, but we have to be smart and we have to see how we integrate the present efforts that are already being going and then utilize this. The last thing I just want to mention very quickly is we have to translate that this division and classification into a IPCC 2006 or sort of a methodology in a very proper fashion so that this can picked up by the others organizations with international repute like emission inventory people as well. So yeah, I'd stop there.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Thank you, Zarindam. Yeah, Dr. Saad.
Yeah, so we have to implement that hairset approach first, and then we have to rectify the emission inventory. See, you are using the emission factors, right? That totally it's not. I mean, accurate. Okay, it varies region to region, so we have to think about that also. This top we have to compare with the top down as well, bottom up, right? So, but bottom up has lots of problems. Means even the consumption data are not accurate. Even the emission factors are, because we developed emission factors from the biomass sectors, right? That emission factor, suppose you are measuring in a control environment, and the actual scenario will be different, right? So that has to be taken care of in the next things, and then some interventions we have to implement so that we can, if there is some reductions, we have to check it. So in that way, we have to go ahead, move on. Yeah,
Implementation needs to be stronger and more
yeah.
correct. Yeah. Dr. Kirpa, are you there?
Yes.
Yes. 1 minute.
Yeah. I think about the industries, I think we need to now go for more of online monitoring. We have to equip all the small or major industries with the online monitoring equipments, and they should be directly communicating to the respective officials, say SPCB or anywhere. Um, and once they say the data, okay, for example, sulfur dioxide is exceeding the limits, or NO2 is exceeding the limits, or say PM is exceeding the limits, they should be told very clearly that, okay, you have to either stop or take a necessary correction measures to reduce the emissions. This has to be done at very, whatever way it is possible, but it has to be implemented. Timely calibration of these instruments and then timely information to the officials, if it reaches in the timely manner, it will be very helpful. So it will be direct communication that, okay, you are exceeding the limits for this particular pollutants, you have to remove this one or you have to reduce this one. So this has to be implemented in properly, actually. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. I'll quickly take some questions. Let me just open it. Okay, so I don't know if this is a question or a statement from Sanjeev Jain. Unmitigated emission sources in Indian urban areas primarily include stationary energy, transport exhaust, municipal solid waste, and construction activities. Rapid urbanization and lagging implementation of targeted mitigation policies leave several local diffuse and transformed resources largely unchecked, intensifying the concentration of particulate and indirect greenhouse gases. Yes, completely agree, Sanjeev. This is what the study has also found. So yeah, I think we are in sync. There are a couple of more pointers from Sanjeev. I think those are not questions but suggestions. There is a specific question, Dr. Neeraj, anonymous, regarding the long-range transportation of emission sources. What you think will be the reasonable approach for emission reduction?
Okay, so the identity is anonymous.
Yes.
But question is good.
Relevant.
Yeah, means if you heard me, I told about this. We have to see the things in a bigger picture. So Punjab to Bengal means we have to work together. Long range transport for UP, things are coming from Punjab. So that means if you are reducing the sources everywhere, then air quality benefits will be everywhere, right? Everywhere in the downwind. So in air quality, downwind is important thing. That winds are from wherever winds are coming, from there only they can bring the pollutant. During winter, our India meteorology is such that it winds flows from Punjab towards Bay of Bengal, and that is why everything is transported that way. So if we are doing things in a collective manner and using air share approach as well, then it should be beneficial for the whole region.
Great. Hope anonymous attendee, you are satisfied with the answer. Okay, we have another question for Arindam. Regarding the cost perspective, what will be the role of global organization for technology development or infrastructure?
I would say, like, it's a very limited global organizational role in infrastructure or development. Like, India has done tremendous advancement in air pollution research and air pollution control research in last 20 years. I would say, like, that's, and if it is more on the solution side of the thing, I would suggest, like, the quantum or the scale of the problem, what you captured, Pratima, to the report is so huge. I don't think like something that from outside can come here. And this is a very specific solution needed, understanding the local context and everything. I don't think there is a lot for the external solutions from others countries can be implemented. It is our it has to be our own solutions and developed by us and implemented here. Yeah.
Yep, good. I completely agree. We internally have to find solutions and find mechanism to finance and then support the initiatives. Yeah, made in India is something that we will all have to work towards. But I do feel that, there are a lot of learnings that is happening globally, and there is a way and possibility for us to tap into that knowledge and have those kind of interventions tailor-made for Indian geographies and get it implemented. So yeah, great. There is one pointer again from Sanjeev Jain. I'm just gonna read out to everyone. To reduce emissions from unmitigated sources in Indian urban areas, the government must adopt airshed level management. Key actionable steps include mandating mechanized road sweeping, strict enforcement of CND dust norms, phasing out open refuse burning through decentralized waste management, and deploying low emission zones to restrict high polluting vehicles. Thank you, Sanjeev, for the suggestions. But I think we should also look beyond the regular activities that are polluting and try to capture more of what is unregulated and unaccounted, because they are equally polluting in terms of PM2.5 and PM10 emissions. So with this, I would like to thank everyone, thank all the panel to be here with us for last 1.5 hours and talk on these questions and give their valuable inputs. And I think this will also help us to think ahead on how this study can be taken forward and what needs to be done beyond just understanding the unmitigated and unaccounted emission inventory. So yeah, thank you again, Professor Neeraj, Arindam, Dr. Saud, Dr. Kirparam. Thank you for being here and providing your insights.
Thank you.
Lastly, I would also like to thank all the audience who have been here with us, interacted. And there are a lot of other questions which the team internally has responded on the study that is being conducted. And also want to thank the iFOREST team for organizing this and supporting. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.